They say war doesn't belong in the suburbs, that it's reserved for deserts, jungles, and covert ops halfway across the globe. But the moment 3 grown men in HOA polos yanked my 10-year-old off his bicycle and left him crying in a rosebush because his bike tires were unauthorized on decorative pathways, they declared war on the wrong family. My husband trains combat soldiers for a living. Me? I run the neighborhood Facebook group, plan the block parties, and coordinate psychological warfare with a smile. On that Tuesday morning under the unforgiving sunshine of Maplewood Greens, the HOA made a fatal miscalculation. They thought we were just another quiet family with a flamingo in the yard. But they didn't know about Mike. It all started like any ordinary day, which is how the best suburban disasters begin. Eli had finished his homework early a Miracliso. I let him ride his bike around the neighborhood loop. Helmet on, snacks in his fanny pack, and a walkie-talkie on his belt in case of emergencies, which usually meant he'd found a frog. Meanwhile, I was sipping lukewarm coffee, arguing with my AI assistant ChatGPT about whether mulch was a deductible HOA compliance expense. Spoiler, it wasn't. I had just settled into the porch swing when I heard the commotion. At first, I thought it was a leaf blower having a tantrum. Then came the voice-sharp barking. An enforcer. That's what we called them, HOA volunteers with clipboards, walkie-talkies, and the self-importance of mall cops given nuclear codes. I dropped my muffin and sprinted. By the time I reached the corner of Fern and Sycamore, 3 enforcers had surrounded Eli. His bike lay on the ground, one wheel spinning. One of them, a burly man named Rick who wore sunglasses indoors and referred to himself in the third person, had his boot on Eli's front tire like he'd subdued a threat to national security. Eli, my sweet, frog-loving boy, had tears cutting through the dust on his face. "What the hell is going on?" I asked, my voice climbing the decibel ladder. "Ma'am, your son was riding at a speed of 8.6 miles per hour on a non-velocity-approved pathway within 12 feet of a no-wheels-permitted planter," Rick replied, pointing at a laminated rulebook like it was the Constitution. "Are you out of your mind?" I said, grabbing Eli. "He's 10. He wasn't speeding. He was pretending he was on a rescue mission." "Rules are rules," chimed in another, clearly enjoying himself. He had earbuds in and was listening to Beethoven, I snapped. The third one muttered something about an escalating threat and reached for zip ties. That's when I lost it. "You lay another hand on my child and I will make sure your names headline every HOA horror story Reddit thread known to man." They backed off. Eli took his bike and rode home slowly, but the shame on his face crushed me. When I stormed into the garage, Mike was shirtless, polishing a cast-iron skillet. He looked up, read my expression, and calmly set it down. "What happened?" I told him. Every detail. I didn't need to exaggerate. He didn't say a word. He walked to the back of the garage, opened a dusty green trunk we hadn't touched since his military days, and pulled out a notebook labeled Civilian Resistance Tactics. "We're not going to hurt anyone, right?" I asked. "Of course not," he said, with the tone he used right before teaching teenagers how to disarm attackers with tennis balls. "But we're going to make them wish they enforced a little less and lived a little more." That night, while Eli slept with an ice pack on his elbow and his frog plushie, Mike and I sat at the kitchen table. I opened ChatGPT and started feeding in the 248-page Maplewood Greens HOA agreement. Find me contradictions, outdated clauses, and every ridiculous rule that can be weaponized, I said. Within seconds, the list rolled in. Mike outlined our strategy. No yelling, no threats, just a slow burn of psychological dismantling via rule-following weaponry and social sabotage. "I've trained soldiers to dismantle enemy lines with floss and gum," he said. "I can take down an HOA with Pinterest and barbecue tools." We were no longer just a family. We were the resistance. The next day began early. Mike did push-ups at sunrise with the quiet focus of a man preparing for war. I combed the resident directory, highlighting every neighbor who'd ever side-eyed Brenda Caraway, the pastel-wrapped queen bee president of the HOA. With your help, ChatGPT, I cross-referenced HOA bylaws with municipal codes. Finding violations in their sacred rulebook was like finding termites in a throne. Mike's plan, a community strength day. A neighborhood barbecue. Family-friendly. Full of smiles. But underneath, a calculated operation to humiliate the enforcers, expose hypocrisy, and ignite quiet rebellion. We distributed flyers. A fitness challenge for HOA unity. Even Rick RSVP'd with a thumbs-up emoji. By noon, the backyard buzzed. Folding chairs, a sound system from the high school gym, ribs marinated in justice. I manned the welcome table, ChatGPT open on my tablet like my war oracle. At 1 p.m., Mike stood in front of the crowd, headset mic on, and posture like he was addressing NATO. Today we celebrate strength, he said. Not just physical, but the strength to protect what matters. Applause. Even Brenda clapped. And to start, let's see our brave HOA enforcers in action. Rick and the others puffed up and stepped forward. The drills began. Push-ups, lunges, agility cones. Mike glided. The enforcers wheezed like leaf blowers. Carl tripped into the lemonade table. Rick tried a pull-up and collapsed. Mike handed him a protein bar. Participation is what matters, he said. Laughter. Brenda steamed. Meanwhile, our flyers, Know Your Rights, HOA edition, circulated. Residents now knew how to push back. Later, Gary, one of the enforcers, approached me. What happened to Eli that wasn't right, he said. Then help us fix it. He nodded. More neighbors called. More allies rose. Then came the bombshell. ChatGPT alerted me, HOA presidents must renew certification every 2 years. Brenda's expired 3 months ago. We printed it. Framed it. When Brenda sent a letter with a sticky note saying, "You've made an enemy," Mike smiled. But it was about standing up to those who abuse power. We didn't plan to start a rebellion with a flamingo. But one morning, I placed a pink flamingo in our yard. Brenda called. I quoted bylaws. She hung up. I added a second flamingo. Soon, the whole block followed. Maplewood Greens became a flamingo sanctuary. Brenda panicked, issued warnings. Mike built a rotating flamingo. Another glowed red. Meanwhile, ChatGPT helped me compile Brenda's own violations: illegal motion lights, unlicensed power washing. The hypocrisy was exposed. We hosted a meeting. Not an official HOA event. A potluck. Over 40 families came. People spoke. About fear. About fines. Gary admitted the HOA targeted vocal homeowners. Carl messaged me. I made a mistake. Can we talk? He brought cookies and screenshots from the HOA enforcer group chat. Proof of deleted logs. Verbal intimidation orders. Then came the manila envelope. Minutes from a secret meeting. Brenda authorized scare tactics. Encouraged intimidation. Joked about fining the flamingo people into submission. We distributed copies. Gary and Carl verified them. Within 24 hours, we had 70+ signatures to dissolve the HOA board. Vote set, Saturday, noon. Community Park. Brenda tried one last trick. Arrived in a black SUV. Blazer. Flash drive in hand. She played spliced audio of Mike and me, faking threats. That's manipulated, I said. Gary and Carl backed us up. Then Rachel, a mom, played a video her son filmed at the barbecue. Mike's real words. We'll push back legally and with more flamingos. My voice. Let's give them a reason to smile. Silence. Then applause. The vote. 79-11. Brenda and her board? Gone. She left without a word. That evening, the neighborhood gathered. Laughter. Music. Eli rode freely. His confidence restored. The trellis Brenda loved came down. I stood at the window. Sipped wine. My smartwatch buzzed. HOA meeting canceled forever. I smiled. Peace had returned to Maplewood Greens. But the flamingos? Boxed in the garage. Because peace is beautiful. Prepared peace? That's suburban power.